So I've been interested how people go down the whole outright rabbit hole and the way people can see it from like an outside perspective when you see someone sort of go through a drastic change. And I've got my friend Grace with me here to tell me about her experience with someone that went from being an ally and, a neurodiverse ally as well, going down the rabbit hole and ending up as someone who hates all of that and like the experience of dealing with someone make that change over a period of time. You want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, I guess I'll start by saying, I think for me, the scary thing was that, I really didn't notice until it was, way too far gone. I think, obviously, with internet access and stuff, you don't know what, even a partner. So for me, it was my ex-boyfriend. He was my boyfriend at the time. I'm going to use he, him pronouns, but he did identify as bisexual when we were together and also had some gender questions. I don't know where that journey ended up. I don't know who they identify as at the minute or what pronouns they use because I've not had contact with them in a decade. So I'm going to use he, him.
Okay.
That may not be correct. I think it probably is because he ended up a neo-Nazi, not at Pride. Those are potentially the wrong pronouns, but I have no way of knowing.
If you're watching this, let us know in the comments below what your pronouns are now.
Yeah, so we got together at college, ended up going to the same uni, sort of shared a flat at uni. So we were in each other's space a lot. It was about a year, and it probably started about a year into the relationship. But I didn't really twig on until about a year and a half into the relationship. He was a bit chronically online anyway, and kind of easily influenced by stuff. But mostly, I mean, to start off, I thought he was joking. Yeah, he spent a lot of time on Reddit, but that's pretty normal for people our age. He'd always been liberal, left wing, like I said, bisexual, possibly trans or non-binary as well. Though he wasn't diagnosed, he was definitely autistic. So a lot of the kind of left wing boxes. I'm super left wing. Look for that kind of thing in a partner. So when we got together, we shared the same views. Pretty left wing, pretty socialist, pretty liberal. All our friend group, this is one of the other weird things. Our whole friend group, tend to be sort of the lefty zillennials. So it was.
Did any of your friends actually notice or say anything about how he had changed over the period of time, that prompted you in any way?
Not really, because we all went to different unis. They only really interacted with him online. The only one that really noticed was Chris, who's now my current partner, but he was in our friend group at the time, and he was kind of one of the people that said to me, do you think that's some of those things he's saying are a bit strange, don't you think? And I was like, yeah, it is worrying me a bit, but he can't be serious. You can't really think that Hillary Clinton's got a sex dungeon under a pizza shop. That's crazy. He must just be joking or getting over involved in meme culture and stuff. Yeah, I guess a combination of a little bit of denial, a little bit of thinking that it was so crazy that it couldn't possibly be true, but a lot of just genuinely not knowing. That's the weirdest thing is I literally lived with this person for over a year. We lived in the same flat. I had no idea what he was doing on the internet. I knew he went on Reddit, knew he went on 4chan, knew he was a bit of a shit poster and stuff, but like I said, I said to you in DMs, the turning point was when he was vehemently celebrating Trump getting elected. He was. I knew he was on conspiracy Reddit and stuff, but it was 3 a.m. I was like, why are you so invested in the U.S. elections anyway? It's not even our politics, but everyone was invested though. I know the whole world was watching, but everyone that I knew was pretty anti-Trump. No one wanted Trump to get in, but he woke me up at 3 a.m. and he had been awake all night watching each of the states turn red or blue, and he was desperate. He was obsessed. I've not seen anybody this invested in their own country's politics, let alone another country's. And he was so ecstatic. It kind of scared me. He woke me up with a manic look in his eye, and he was so thrilled that Trump got elected. And I was thinking no, God, this is a fucking terrible thing. I wasn't especially pro Hillary, but I was definitely not pro Trump.
Yeah.
And he was and the misogyny, I didn't notice any misogyny until that point when he was talking about Hillary. He was that bitch, that whore is getting what she's.
There was a trend where after Trump got elected, even in the UK after Tories got re-elected as well, where people were more actually brave enough to be openly sort of racist and misogynistic to the point where you'd see it a lot more just in and around where normally like wouldn't have been the case.
100%. It definitely felt like there was this side to him that he'd been hiding, and the Trump election sort of opened the door for him to feel more able to be open about those views. But that's why it came as such a shock, because, like, as far as I was concerned, we were still on the same page about most things. And then I'm like groggy, like waking up, and he's like, she's gone down, like that bitch has got what's coming to her, like Trump, he's gonna fix the world, he's gonna get rid of all of the gays and the this and the that. And I was like, but you're a gay, like what? I was so confused. And I was like, that's the biggest red flag. I mean, there was probably red flags before that I didn't
Yeah.
see, but like I went back to sleep because it was 3 a.m, woke up the next day and thought, something's going on here, like that's not right. Or actually that's very, very right. Too right.
Too far right.
Yeah, he was so thrilled that Trump was elected and literally thought it was like the second coming of the Messiah, like typical Republican stuff. And I like tried to have conversations with him and I was like, where have you got this information from? Like, why do you think this? And it was just like the most insane Reddit threads you've ever read just came spurting out of his mouth.
Oh
All these
no.
conspiracies, all this Hillary Clinton's a witch. The whole like Lady Gaga sacrifices children and drinks their blood at like Illuminati parties. Like it was like full on bonkers.
It's strange how that sort of thing sort of bubbles under the surface and you don't realize it until it all sort of spurts out. 'Cause I had a sort of similar experience with not a friend, but a friend of a friend. Like they made
Yeah.
friends with an American person online and we're like, oh cool, he's, playing to the American stereotype of being really super into guns and stuff. POC, an LGBT person as well. So it was a black person who is also a member of the LGBT. We were all sort of like, either POCs, LGBT, pro disability, that's like played D&D together. It was towards the end of the Trump the election period, like, the whole votes being counted and stuff, that like he just casually mentioned he's pro Trump and so was his family. Like, but you're literally the kind of person that all these Trump supporters want out. You've ticked all the boxes. And
Yeah.
they get super defensive about that, and it's like a weird, like, they have this sort of like mindset where they think, oh, we're one of the good ones that are not going to be ostracized, but you guys are all bad situation.
Yeah, it is like the pick me mindset, but for politics. Like that, I'm not like other gays. I'm not like other people of color. Like I'm, one of you. Yeah, definitely. There was definitely some of that mindset, and like I said, there was some gender questions going on around his identity, and I was like super supportive of that because I'm bi, so like you can be a boy, you can be a big girl, you can be anything. Like it's fine with me.
Yeah.
So I was like, I thought, well, I say doing everything right. I wasn't encouraging them to repress that, but I think they must surely, I mean, I'm no psychologist, but surely to go from like questioning your gender to like consuming like trans cringe compilations of like, of course you've got blue hair and pronouns compilations. It almost seems like he was trying to convince himself that he wasn't like that and was trying to like almost do like self-conversion therapy.
There's like that sort of like trope where like, oh, why can't you be like, normal and like not make it your whole personality and just like look like how they look, but like repress that side of you when you're in public and only do it at home with all the blinds shut or something.
Big fan of is it Milo Yiannopoulos? Is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
I'm not like other gays, the gays for Trump, all that kind of stuff. It's just crazy. It's like
I'm surprised that he turned out to be pro grooming as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, surely are they? That's the other thing as well. When he was like celebrating Trump's election and being like, "Oh, Hillary Clinton's not going to abuse kids anymore," and it was like, yeah, but Trump's actually got like.
Yeah, the whole child beauty pageant incident with Trump, and like literally every Republican that has had an incident with an underage person or something like that. Like, how do you ignore that when you're trying to point the finger at the other side when like there's so many on the right that have essentially done all of those things and then more?
Yeah, exactly. It's just the amount of like mental gymnastics and like hope, and it like with your friend, it's so bizarre because it came from somebody that should not be pro-Trump, that like right-wing politics would directly strive to take away like their rights.
I think it's partially like involved with like some sort of like self-hate as well, possibly.
Definitely.
There's definitely a degree of that involved in it.
There was definitely some denial. The kind of family dynamic that he came from, like very working class Northern English family, very hyper masculine working class dad that was not ever impressed with anything even like slightly feminine or camp that he did. And he was until he like became the like shaved head, military combat gear wearing like full neo-Nazi, he was very effeminate, and that was very squashed by like his parents and his brother. So there was definitely like something very complicated and going on with his psychology, but I don't understand. I mean, I've been through my own like journey of self-discovery, and I can't imagine ever wanting to gravitate more towards the people that would want to oppress me. I've gravitated towards like lefter and queerer and more outside people, because those are the people that have accepted me. And I don't know, I can't imagine, like, it's almost masochistic, like that, begging, like, oh please Mr. Trump, I'm one of the good ones, please like me, like, daddy, you know.
I think a lot of the whole like alt-right sort of like, you know, trappings, it is very predatory for people who are sort of insecure about themselves and are chronically sort of online and are seeking, because like, if you're willing to take the step to make fun of the things that they make fun of, they will be accommodating and like nice to you, even though if you fit that box that you're making fun of, you're showing that you're willing to do that to yourself and sort of like lower yourself down for them, they will welcome you, but they'll still hate everyone else.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, he was welcomed in those circles. I mean, I don't know how open he was about his actual like identity, but he was definitely welcome in those circles. And he seemed to project when like Republican TikTokers and stuff are like, oh, you see this gay guy, he looks like a man and doesn't rub it in everyone's face, and we approve, thumbs up, he drives a truck. Like, he would watch those and almost kind of imagine that they were like saying it about him, I think, and got a lot of validation from that, and was seeking validation and acceptance from them, and like projecting that. But yeah, he was accepted in the communities. I mean, like, typing all the time I read, just like could not, like, late into the night I was like, please get off your laptop, like, I've got lectures at 9 a.m, get off conspiracy Reddit. But yeah, it devolved from that moment with the Trump election where I thought, like, we got a problem here. The quick spiraling from that point.
Yeah, how did it go from that when you saw the whole Trump election thing to like where it did end up going?
Yeah, I mean, if we like split it into two phases, like pre-Trump election, he was sort of secretly being groomed, for want of a better word.
I mean, that is essentially the correct word for it.
Yeah, I think so, like, groomed and radicalized online by these toxic forums. And then post Trump election, he was just like a different person. He was just like constantly mouthing off. Like, we would argue about whether or not Hillary Clinton had a pizza sex dungeon, and he would pull up these like proof that was like, if you order a extra large pizza from this menu, you're actually ordering a child. Our relationship really went downhill from there, because he was expressing clearly what were to him like firmly held beliefs, and a lot of the time, like, I was laughing in his face, because like, how can you take that seriously when someone's saying that to you? Like, I just couldn't like sit down and be like, that's your opinion and I respect it, because it was just like complete madness. When it was like, look at these pictures of Lady Gaga like sacrificing a baby, I was like, I can't take that seriously. I can't respect.
How do you think he'd feel about Lil Nas X now?
Yeah.
Think about it.
Can't engage. I just couldn't engage with it, and that frustrated him, and our relationship was going downhill. But the major thing was the misogyny. Like, he just became, maybe it's secretly always been in him, maybe it was like sort of comorbid with his own gender,
or maybe like reinforced by people who have been encouraging him to sort of be more in that.
Yeah, but the like sudden spike in misogyny, from basically like no misogyny, very liberal, very left wing, very egalitarian relationship, to just like full on misogyny, just using degrading language, not always at me, but degrading other women in a way that made me really uncomfortable, because it was like, well, you know.
Was it always in the sense that he'd expect you to agree with him because you think that he doesn't think that about you situation?
Yeah, it's almost like, yeah, he'd become this sort of like pick me, sort of, I'm not like other people thing, and I think he was expecting me to sort of follow in the footsteps. And when he's saying degrading things about another woman's like looks or body or personality or anything, I think he was expecting me to agree, and I was like, hey, don't be that way. That caused a lot of tension. It sort of spiraled into sort of a quite emotionally abusive relationship. It was quite toxic, and because we were living in a flat together and I was isolated from friends and family, because I was at uni. And the scenario, like, I was at uni away from my friends and family, so like he was the only person I had, and it was just before I got my ME diagnosis. So I was disabled, like physically, and suffering with the symptoms, but I didn't know what it was. So I was kind of trapped in the flat with him. So I stuck around in that relationship for like too long because the combination of like him being increasingly like degrading and emotionally abusive, an overall shit person, and me being like disabled and isolated meant that I should have quit that relationship the day of Trump's election, but it carried on, and it got more and more toxic. It got more controlling. The misogynistic comments about other women eventually ended up with misogyny against me. The constant arguing about politics. Like for me, I've got to be in a relationship with someone that not like, you know, on the fundamentals sees eye to eye with me. Like I like a little bit of a debate, a bit of a hey, what do you think about this? What's your perspective? But on fundamental things like should women have rights?
Yeah, you don't want to be debating whether or not women should have access to healthcare. You want to debate whether or not the Death Note manga had the better ending or the anime had the better, right?
Exactly. And I'm here to tell you that the musical had the best ending.
It does.
But yeah, no, we were not agreeing on the fundamentals of anything, and that was causing a lot of arguing, but like so much confusion and resentment. And when I say he became a completely different person at the beginning of our relationship, like he was a respectful boyfriend, he was a fun member of the friend group that we were in. By the end, like nobody in the friend group could stand him. We used to play D&D together, and like all the other friends would message me and be like, look, we want to play with you, but we don't want to play with him. So you're either like showing up on your own or you're both not showing up to the group.
Oh wow. No, hats off to the group for doing that actually.
Yeah, I know. They were like everybody hated him, and Chris, who was a very close friend of mine at the time, was like, "You've got to leave." Like,
there's been so many times I've seen D&D groups sort of fall apart because they don't want to deal with one person and they don't have the balls to say, "Hey, this person's a problem. Get rid of them."
yeah.
So, do you know what? 10 like points to whoever your group were actually doing that, because that's something they should do.
Yeah, but Chris was like, "You got to get rid of him out the D&D group and out of your life because he is horrible." And it culminated in just the worst behavior. We went to a Comic-Con together after I broke up with him because we had tickets and we were students. We didn't have much money.
Yeah.
So we had tickets and train tickets, and they were non-refundable, so we were like, right, we'll go, but we're not a couple. And the whole time he was like touching me inappropriately. He would slap my ass in front of friends when we met up, keep saying, "This is my girlfriend," and I'd be like, broken up, and he was like, "This is my girlfriend, we
That's
are
embarrassing.
still together," and like grabbing my ass and stuff. And I was like, who the fuck are you? Because you would, unless you had been completely pretending and masquerading as somebody for an entire year before the Trump election, you were not this person. Like, this is insane. And then you know, a few months passed. His mum put on Facebook that I had been like sleeping around with like every boy in the local town, and that's why we broke up. And I was like, yes, of course, that's absolutely true. It's not because your son's a right-wing nut job.
Oh wow.
It's because I've had sex with every man in our town that has a population of like 150,000.
That's a lot of fucking work.
Oh, I know, it was really hard work, especially in the space of like a month.
Yeah.
But
I didn't realize disabled people had that much stamina. I'm actually impressed.
oh my god, I know, chronic fatigue. Who is she? But me and Chris got together, and then he just went like a whole other step. He was showing up at my uni dorms, throwing bricks at the window. I had to have security calls.
Yeah, that's quite a sharp turn from.
Yeah, like to straight up violence. Like it just went. The police were called multiple times. Campus security were called multiple times. He'd just sit outside the door to my flat, not my bedroom. Like,
Was this the flat that he used to be in, or did you move out to a different place?
I kept the flat and he moved.
Okay, so he knew where you were then, basically.
Yeah, I was in the same flat and he moved out. But it was one like with the 6 bedrooms and then like a kitchen at the end of the corridor. So there was like 5 other people that weren't me in that flat, and he would just camp outside the door to our whole flat, not my bedroom door. He would just sit outside, just 24/7, just sit outside the flat waiting for like me to come out, which obviously I didn't because I knew he was there. But like I had to keep saying to my other flatmates, like, I'm so sorry, my crazy stalker ex is outside the flat. And campus security would remove him and then he'd just come back.
How many times does that sort of thing happen? Was it just like a one-off, or
Oh no, the sitting outside my flat just like what that went on for a period of like probably a fortnight. He was just doing it and throwing bricks at the window, like trying to speak to me. And then it culminated in everybody's favorite manipulation tactic: him standing on the edge of a bridge, calling me, saying he was going to jump off if I didn't take him back. And I called the police. In fact, I was like so stressed out. Like at this point, I was like completely fucking done. Chris actually called the police and like negotiated with the police for the police to find out where he was, because we were like, "What bridge are you on?" And he was like, "I'm not telling."
subscribe to the Patreon to find out?
Yeah, literally, we had to like freaking try like geoguesser where in the city, like what bridge he was on over what motorway for the police to find him, and then they like I think they took him into custody for the night, and then like to stop him from doing stuff, and then hopefully referred him to mental health services. But like obviously he was mentally unwell. There's other stuff going on in his life. It's that can't be directly attributed to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But there was certainly like a combination of the alt-right radicalization and that increase in violence.
Do you think a lot of it is very predatory in the sense that they specifically seek out people who might have issues like that, and then instead of saying go get help, which to the person receiving that sort of information, they might see it as an attack on themselves. Like people think I'm weird and they think I need help. That seems like a personal offense or something. They might be upset by that. Having someone say, "No, you're not weird. You're just like us," you know?
Yeah.
And then reaffirming that sort of that kind of behavior in like a more negative way. I think that's kind of how most people sort of get radicalized.
Yeah, definitely that sort of same thing that happens with like incels, where instead of helping each other to
They
like
make each other
grow and
worse, in a
change,
sense.
yeah, they encourage each other to stay in those like toxic negative mindsets. And I do think by the end of the relationship, like he genuinely hated women. He genuinely thought that I deserved whatever the hell he was going to do to me if he ever got into the flat. Like he was so full of hatred. That is the main thing. Like he went from quite a normal stable person in a supportive relationship to just saturated with hate for everyone and everything except cis het white men.
I'm just amazed that he had that much free time for you as well. Like, it honestly sounded like he had more time for you after the relationship ended than during the whole relationship.
Yeah, no, legit. Like the whole relationship, it was him and Reddit, and me in the corner, like, okay. And then as soon as we were broken up, like he seemed to have nothing but time to sit outside my door. Like, what? Are you not going to lectures, mate? Like, failing your uni course. I don't know what happened with his uni course. I don't know if he passed, but I do know that after he'd finally left me alone, which took a bit of effort. Like there was conversations about whether or not we'd need to apply for a restraining order and stuff.
Yeah.
People who I knew saw him. A couple of people like took like sneaky pictures and sent them to me, and I was like, I don't want to see my ex. Like, but I did see photos, and he had completely shaved his hair, butched up like in the full like military camo like surplus thrift shop like military jacket and combat trousers and like proper like stompy boots, the kind that only look good on goth girls and do not look on like shaved head white guys. But no, he'd gone like full neo-Nazi aesthetic, full like skinhead, and you know, I love a subculture. I love a like extreme haircut, a fashion style, but like no, this was not fashion.
I mean, if there's any like silver lining to all of this, like whenever we go to war, neither of us will get drafted, but he certainly will.
Yeah. I see.
It's good that he's got the uniform that he ready for it.
Glad you love the military so much, Woo. But yeah, and when I say neo-Nazi, I'm not throwing that around. He became genuinely anti-Semitic, and it was like what, like 2017, maybe even earlier than that. So you know, it was that time where the country was like just coming out of recession, which we're back in again.
Hell yeah.
But his obviously coming from a northern working class household, his family had seen a lot of financial struggles, and he'd grown up a child through a lot of financial hardship. And the kind of town we're from, like very working class, very affected in the 80s by like Thatcher's policies and stuff. All our industry got shut down, so everyone around him had struggled, and we've all grown up in this like working class, financially challenging environment. And somehow he'd arrived at the conclusion that that wasn't the fault of like, you know, 40 years of like government mismanagement of this country, Tory reign, Tory austerity, like bad politics. and classism, he'd arrived at the conclusion that actually all of his entire childhood struggles and his family struggles were because a certain racial, religious demographic of people had all the world's wealth in a bank account somewhere that they were keeping from everybody else. And I was like, how does that make, what, you think there's like a group of people, I won't, I'm sure everyone knows which particular group he was scapegoating, but I was like, you really think that it's all, everyone's money's just in like a bank account somewhere, like they're just sitting on it like a dragon, and it's not because of like shitty policies and a terrible economy and like billionaires and shit.
Like the only time that your life would be impacted by that many people of that one religion is if you happen to be Palestinian. I don't think he certainly was.
No, definitely not Palestinian. Actually, so white, ginger, so goddamn white, the whitest, reflective, like bioluminescent this guy was. But yeah, he seemed to arrive at the conclusion that all of his problems and all of the world's problems were down to one group of people, and that certain historical leaders around the 30s and 40s had the right idea, that it was time for the downtrodden white man to get their stompy army surplus boots on and teach the world a lesson, because cis-het white men are so oppressed.
Did you have any friends that are like still friends with him, or like still mutual friends essentially after you guys, or did all of your friends sort of like cut him off?
Everybody cut him off before me and was begging me to leave that relationship. Like I was the last one. Everybody cut him off before me. There was like a weird thing afterwards where he hacked my new partner Chris's phone and put a tracker on it. Well, I say hacked as if that's probably giving him too much credence. He sent Chris a dodgy link and Chris stupidly opened it and it installed a tracker on his phone. And after that, one of his friends like came up to Chris and found Chris at Chris's uni, but that didn't go anywhere. So his friends potentially were also maybe going down the same kind of pipeline. Like when I say his friends, I mean not any of our mutual friends, like people I didn't associate with. So potentially some of his friends were going through the same radicalization as him, but in terms of our friend group and the people I still associate with, everyone cut him dead, including people that had known him way longer than I had. Like some of his like childhood friends and school friends had cut him dead and were like, girl, get out, run.
How much of a role do you think his like parents had like in regards to that thing? Do you reckon they were like enforcing this sort of thing, or they were like partially complicit in certain things that encouraged him?
I think they were quite repressive, and I think they taught him a lot of shame from an early age. And he definitely had that relationship with his dad where he knew that he didn't really turn out how his dad wanted him to be. And I think it's definitely a driving force that perhaps he was trying to become the image of someone that his dad might approve of more. His dad was your typical like toxic masculinity, machismo, working class. My son's going to go down coal mine and die of consumption at 30. And he's going to have a normal wife and 20 kids and never have a gay thought in his life kind of dad. I don't think they encouraged his views, though I don't really know. I was never super close with his family. Potentially, they were definitely kind of the working class people that would vote conservative, even though they're like dirt poor, because they voting conservative, like they think it'll trickle down and they think that by bootlicking they might get the crumbs off the table. They were definitely that kind of family. So maybe that had an influence, but I genuinely would attribute at least 90 to 95% of the influence on his views being the internet. Not very much coming from people around him. In fact, a lot of people around him were disagreeing with him, and he had friends dropping like flies left, right, and centre. But that didn't seem like there wasn't a point where he stopped and thought, "Wow, I've got no friends anymore. Why has that happened?" He just thought he was completely right. He was like in a mindset and he was completely tunnel visioned.
Thing is, when you're sort of going down that whole like alt-right sort of pipeline thing, you end up with these self-reflection skills of a vampire, so you can't really see that you're doing wrong. You just think everyone else must be wrong because you're so right. Really.
Yeah, like I said, he wasn't diagnosed with autism, but I can see sort of that obsessive, like cyclical thinking pattern of behavior, and he did sort of go into himself and lose all powers of like self-reflection and self-evaluation, and kind of got almost, I'd say, hyper-fixated. Like it almost became his special interest, these conspiracy theories. And I get it, because like reading something wild and outrageous on the internet, like you can get a little dopamine kick from it. You can like literally go
I
down a
mean,
rabbit
you can
hole.
read like FNAF fanfics or like theories or like SCP, but instead they've chosen Hillary Clinton's pizza sex dungeon.
Yeah, literally, yeah. Definitely went down the wrong rabbit hole, but
Should have
I
watched
can
more
see
MatPat. That's the problem. Game theory would have fixed him.
how potentially being autistic made him vulnerable to that suggestion, but also I know that like when my strong sense of justice kicks in, like I really want to enact justice and
Yeah.
make the world a better place. So I guess I can see how like if he genuinely believed that like kids were being abused and stuff, that he would feel passionate about that. But I was just like, how can you not evaluate that that's just complete madness? But he was so fixated on it, and so I'd say he became like almost emotionally dependent. It became like a crutch, like a
Like a safety net sort of situation for him.
yeah, definitely. I guess it was a community, I use that word loosely, that made him feel accepted.
Yeah.
And it is definitely sad because, like I said, with whatever like queer stuff he had going on or not going on, like he had a group of friends that were all tolerant and accepting and supportive.
I can see why that would be a good thing for him, like think on, because like it's like, hey, I can be without a filter and express myself as freely as I want, and these guys will laugh and be accepting and so on. Where if he was in a situation where he had to mind someone's pronouns or something, he'd probably feel like he's being restricted and so on, and that's probably why he'd lean more into that other subset.
Yeah, definitely. I think there was a lot of denial and sort of that like pushing back against change, because it was sort of that the turning point where they them was becoming like the mainstream, and people were having conversations about pronouns and stuff.
Oh man, I love
And I
they them.
think
It's so lazy. I can just call everyone
I
they them.
know, I know, I
I don't
love
even have to look at the
it.
person to know what to call them. I can just say they them.
Yeah, I totally agree. But I guess if that hit a little too close to home, it was very challenging
Yeah.
to like reconcile with. And I think potentially because he didn't have the ability to come out and say like, hey, I'm super queer, I'm super non-binary, like he was very angry about people that did. And like I said, for somebody that was looking very much like they were potentially wanting to transition, they very quickly went into the like, oh, everybody's got blue hair and Ziza and it's ridiculous, and oh, look at these cringe. It'd be like, oh, do you want to see a cringe compilation? And I'd be like, well, not really, because my life's cringe enough. And then it would just be like that one famous clip of that woman with red hair shouting at that protest and like, oh, look at these SJWs, oh, they all want to be called whatever, like I was going to say crazy neo pronouns, but I'm
Yeah.
pro pronoun. I don't want to demean any pronouns, but at the time the world wasn't ready for they them, so like Ziza and
Yeah.
all the like neo pronouns were causing a lot of upset. Yeah, it made him so angry. And like when they say, and it's a bit of like an outdated trope, that the most homophobic people is like secretly gay,
Yeah.
because like nobody is spending as much time as he was thinking about and being angry about other people's pronouns. Like, don't bother me, I don't think about other people's pronouns. I only think about it if somebody tells me their pronouns, and I like commit it to memory for the like next 10 seconds. I don't sit like ruminating on, oh, they're they them. Like, it made him so mad. And I guess from my perspective, I saw that as just like internalized issues. And yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much chance he's going to see this, but I would genuinely be quite interested to know if the outcome of all of this is that he's still like a skinhead neo-Nazi with very right-wing views, or if through like maturity and passing 25 and the brain becoming fully developed, if he has gone, yeah, shit, no, I'm very LGBT and I need support. It would be really interesting to know which way he's gone.
Would be, yeah. See a lot of people sort of in that sort of situation though, in like a lot of like weeb communities or like alternative communities quite often, because like obviously they sort of prey on neurodivergent people because they're more easily influenced by ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird how, people who are really obsessed with things like comic books, movies, anime and stuff, who then have like the one example I use all the time is X-Men, when they're watching X-Men and then they have the bigotted eyes like dude, you are the villain here. You're the politician that's trying to kill all mutants.
Yeah, it's
Like,
like
how
that
did they not
tweet
see
that's
that?
like, no, Star Wars can't be an allegory for the Vietnam War because that would make Empire America. And it's like, so close. Oh, you're nearly there.
No, but it always boggles my mind that people can spend like their entire salary on like memorabilia for these sort of things and completely miss the point like that. And it happens quite a lot.
I think media literacy and getting radicalized because you can't tell that conspiracy theories are batshit insane go hand in hand.
They do, because like a lot of right wing people, and I've been noticing a lot of this recently with the Netflix live action Avatar, because I was posting about it, and I've had comments from people who say, "Oh no, the Netflix series is woke, so I'm not going to watch it." I'm like, you do realize what the original series featuring people of color and disabilities and LGBT characters was about, right? And they were adamant that the original series was not as woke as the Netflix series. I'm like, are you sure about this? Have you got any more final thoughts you want to say about your neo-Nazi ex and how they turned out? And the road to getting there.
I want to say very clearly, they do not live rent free in my brain. I don't think about them until I saw your status. It was like, has anyone known anyone that's been radicalized? And I was like, oh boy, do I. But because I am thinking about it, I would genuinely love to know, or love to know if like someone has had a similar experience and has come out the other side of it and come back to being left wing, or at least like moderately balanced as a
Yeah, because I'm
person.
also interested in hearing about people's experience from going from one end to the other, but then also the reverse as well. Because I think it's like a
Yeah.
really interesting perspective to see things from, whether or not people can change their mind or if they're just fixed one way. Because they've changed, obviously, your ex changed his mind once before. Can he do it again?
Yeah, I think cynically, from my perspective, I find that people become very more rigid with their views when they become more right wing. Like the capacity for flexibility seems to diminish, which is why I feel like you see people go that way and then stay there.
Yeah.
But it would be, I would like to probably that has that like set thinking pattern and has then actually like been challenged about it, has changed their mind. That would be an interesting conclusion to this.
I sort of want to know, because I know people do challenge people's opinions on things like that all the time. Usually, you just get them being more set in the ways because they think, oh, if people are challenging me on that, must mean I'm right about it. But then there's also like a possibility that maybe they realize, hey, yeah, I am wrong. Maybe 2 plus 2 actually is 4. But I don't know if we'll ever see that sort of thing. But then I'm always interested to like hear people's like first-hand accounts as well of this sort of thing, because it's an interesting thing to me. I genuinely like seeing people sort of shift from being one thing to another, and like I'm really interested in the whole process of like, did they slowly turn out that way? Were they always that way? Were they like letting bits out at a time? Like, how does that go? And the way it sort of affects people, like it's not like a sharp turn; it's actually just a gradient, but you don't see that gradient until they decide to show it, and by then it feels like it's been a sharp turn sort of situation.
Yeah, definitely. That's like the scary thing, but also the thing that like is the most frustrating, like that whiplash. Like I said with the Trump election, I was just like, whoa, where did this come from? But obviously it didn't come from nowhere. It had been building and shifting for a while. But yeah, not knowing that that's happening to somebody you're that close with, not being able to intervene.
Yeah, you would think if you were close, you would see that sort of thing straight away. Apparently, you didn't until like way, way down the line.
Yeah, and I'm quite observant. I'm quite analytical of the people around me. Like I'm quite shocked that I didn't see it, and that just
Yeah.
shows like how pervasive it is, and almost cult like, because like I don't know if he was being told to like keep it a secret, or maybe just as an
Or on some level, he registered that this is something he shouldn't say
yeah.
outwardly.
Yeah, but never questioned that if he feels like he should say it outwardly, should he be believing it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I had more insight into like when it began, if it began before a relationship, if I never really knew that person at all. Because I say that at the beginning of the relationship they were fine, but I can't say that with 100% certainty. It is quite scary to think that like someone you know can be very radicalized in that way and genuinely like you not have a clue. When people like, you know, like when like there's a serial killer and like the mother will be like, we genuinely didn't know, and everyone's
Yeah.
like, that's bullshit. I don't know.
Because like hindsight's 2020. Like we all watch it, it's like, oh, we can obviously tell, but obviously from her perspective, she wouldn't have seen any of that beforehand.
Yeah, you can. Someone can be going through anything and keep it from you. Like, no matter if you like literally live under the same roof.
Yeah.
People can hide stuff. That's probably quite a scary and depressing note to leave it
Yeah.
on. But yeah, until you see that first red flag, and at that point, like, they're already radicalized. By the time they've shown that side of themselves to you, it's too late. So you just
Yeah.
gotta like make a decision about if you're gonna move
But
forward.
buy brick-proof like window like bars or something.
Yeah, stay away from bricks.
Yeah.
Lock your doors. Don't be a Nazi. That's my advice.
Yeah, well, thank you for taking the time to talk about this with me, Grace. I always really appreciate it. Do you want to tell everyone to like and subscribe to watch more?
Definitely like, subscribe, and send him a little heart.
Oh, yeah.